Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Uhfgood, and today you're going to probably notice. Sorry, I'm looking over at my screen. That the angle is just slightly different than it was before, which is uh, because I just remembered that my new monitor has the ability to raise up about, I don't know, half a foot, several inches, anyways, and um, all this time I've been trying to put like a box in between my web around and the back of my chair, and it works. But when I move around a lot, sometimes the box falls out, and I really needed it to lean forward in order to get uh, make sure that there's no edges uh, around the uh, around the camera view because I was doing it direct on. So I was just thinking, what if this thing set back, the top set back? It's not really setting back. You can't really see it. Um, you probably wouldn't be able to see it very well, anyways. But was to, if I tilted that back in order to allow more top light to come in. Although, like I said, it's really not that far back, so it's not really letting the top light come in. But that if I raise the webcam high enough that I wouldn't have to worry about the edges of the web around kind of peeking through. Now I can still do, if I go too far. Actually, you can't even see it here, but maybe if I go too far this way, you can actually see a corner of my room there in the corner. But for the most part, you can't see this is because there's more of the screen, of the green screen, of the web around in the view. And so I was um, so I was thinking maybe I'd do this for a while. So right now you're seeing, looking down. Another kind of small advantage is the fact that you don't see as much glare from the lights and from the screens on my eyes because the angle of the reflection is slightly different than it was when I do it head on. Of course, the reflection reflects back into the camera directly more. But if you do it to the side or from above or below a certain angle, it tends to hide that. So you can actually see my eyes a little bit more through my glasses now. Maybe not a lot. I mean, you still see the reflections in there. I can still see them when I'm looking. In fact, they're still there right now. But at the same time, you know, in fact, if I take this and I just go to inch it down just a hair, um, it should be a little bit better. Anyways, I guess I don't know. Here, let me let me do this real quick. Let's go to properties in OBS, and you won't see that until I bring it over here into the screen. But um, I don't know if you can see this as well. Um, but if I angle my head down a little bit, if I'm looking at, now you can see my eyes quite a bit more, except for this, this little reflection, which is, I'm not sure. I guess it's the monitor reflecting. In fact, that little dealie right there is probably this white area here, probably. But you can kind of see my eyes more or less. And again, it's not a big deal. Like if I do this, you still can't see my eyes. Um, but if I do this, also, if I angle it down a little bit more, now my top of my head's going to be cut off a little bit, but that's kind of okay. But what it means is when most of the time when I'm looking at my screen and stuff, unless I'm tilting up, you'll actually see my eyes a little bit better. Pardon me for hiccuping. Um, and you'll see my poor attempt at my my lack of shaving. I don't know. I don't really care about my appearance that much, but every once in a while I look in the mirror and I go, man, need to work on that. Anyways, so you'll start seeing you'll start seeing more from this angle for a while. I'm going to see how this works out. I think this is a better deal because that way, if I turn back and forth, it's not going to really affect it that much unless I turn it to an extreme, side point or whatever. Let's actually put this over here, and then when I need to go into file, I'll just move it. Or actually, let's just do it here in the center. That way, it's easy to look at here in the center. Okay, so now the reason that you're looking at Blender here is because I finally figured out how all this stuff works. Now, what's interesting here, or not interesting, or whatever you want to call it, this is the editing context, right? This is the type of editor, I guess. It's a dope sheet type of editor, which is kind of interesting. But the context is what's important here. Now, if you notice here, you notice these keyframes, right? So if I move over here, if I move here, it's different, right? In fact, well, I didn't draw anything out on the outside, but I did trace here, right? If I go over here, then these were having to do with when I, mostly when I was sketching. In fact, I could actually fix that by the whole keyframe thing, but that I'm going to show you in a second. But you notice here, right? Different drawings, different keyframes. This is the grease paint. They can call it timeline or they can call it dope sheet. Doesn't really matter. Back in the olden days when they actually used to draw cartoons on paper and actually paint them on cells and all that, the dope sheet was basically the sheet that shows you how many frames, like a piece of audio or a piece of spoken dialogue or whatever, how long it lasted, so that so you can mark out where you want to put your phenomes, or where you want to put your your footsteps, if it's the footsteps, or horse clops or whatever, horse, the sound, the cloppity clop, half coconut sound that they used, and so I didn't really understand the whole concept of the dope sheet and the timeline. They sound like vaguely the similar things. In fact, they fulfill mostly a similar purpose. But there is an interesting thing here, and that is the fact that I'm going to go ahead and add a. There we go. We are going to do a dope sheet. Let's see, dope sheet. Right there. Okay. Actually, here, let me see something here. Is there anything in here that says grease pencil? There isn't anything that says grease pencil, which is kind of interesting here to look at. Dope sheet, I can put grease pencil in there. So, but technically speaking, the grease pencil timeline / dope sheet is actually the same kind of an editor. They still, in my mind, need a separate one. But if you notice, there's no keyframes here. Why are there no keyframes here? Well, that's because this is actually separate from the grease pencil. This is the dope sheet or the timeline or whatever you want to call it for grease pencil. These are the keyframes for the grease pencil. This is not for objects or for anything else. This is just for your drawings. This is for grease pencil, or this is for everything else, objects and stuff, right? In fact, all objects, basically. Okay, so now I have my background image here, and let's say, for instance, okay, so I'm on this keyframe. I'm on this grease pencil keyframe. We'll leave it there, and so let's say I want to make it transparent, and you can keyframe almost anything in Blender. So this was no exception. It's just I had to figure out how to do it. So what you want to do is over this here, and specifically over the transparency deal, I have a feeling the offset and stuff, it probably all works the same in here. But basically in this area, I hit I for insert keyframe. Now, that keyframe is right full transparency. Now, if I do this, if I pull it down, and then I move this over to 25. Ooh, okay, so there I still have things to learn. You know, I figured it out, but I still have the things to learn. So that's okay. That's what 1,000. This is 1,000. Now I take this down to 0, and then now I hit keyframe here. Now, what this should mean is if I go over this, right? This is a keyframe showing the thing is there, and then this is a keyframe showing this is gone. So everything afterwards is gone. That means it's not really gone. The object, of course, is still there. It's just invisible. Now, uh, it took me a while to figure this out because I had actually looked at some other thing where I was doing animation or whatever, and the dope sheet basically how you move stuff or whatever. You notice background image. It says all the stuff. It was if it was a 3D object, it'd be like like location, scaling, and all that stuff. So I just kind of remembered that before I had actually messed with this, and then so I knew that there was a way to do it. I just didn't remember how to do it, and so finally I just went, oh yeah, you know what? I could just put it over this and hit I for it to, because if you hit I in this area, it's going to be for objects. It's going to be location, scale, rotation, and stuff. If I hit I here, it's just going to add a grease pencil keyframe. So so then that's when I decided to do this. Okay, so that's the end of this video, and stay tuned for the next video where I will expound a little bit more about what I wanted to do and why I wanted to do this. So stay tuned.